In this episode, we discuss books and resources for anybody new to fitness. Welcome to the Neat Athlete Podcast, a podcast discussing healthy habits, lifestyle design, and all the controversial fitness thoughts we have. Let's do this. What's going on, Mike?
Hello. So we were basically just recapping Christmas and New Year's in the green room. What do you call it when we're talking before we actually talk?
I would say we could call it the green room.
Yeah, in the green
The
room.
wake up room.
Yeah. That works. So I wanted to talk to you about a couple of different things, and they're all basically themed around what people are doing around this time of the year. And I call this is fitness season.
Okay.
Fitness, like January to February, maybe a little bit leading into March.
Yes, very true. Getting ready for summer.
Yeah. Because you'll have the that January obvious. February is kind of like a hangover from January, or like late bloomers from January goes into February, and then you got spring coming and getting ready for the summer kind of crowd that comes in after that, basically.
I feel like the spring crowd is always big. You know, like right when that warm weather hits, everyone's like, "Oh man, I got to get in the gym."
Yeah. So during fitness season, like the kind of questions or things that would be useful to go over is what we want to talk about today, right?
All right. Like what kind of things?
Well, I was thinking like resources.
Okay, resources.
So what we're reading, or like good resources that we like. And the reason I say this is because I noticed that I'm like pointing out and like sending people books and links to things a lot right now.
Okay.
Have you found anything? Or are you reading anything right now? I wanted to ask you first, and then I'll tell you what I've been doing lately.
Yeah, I mean, so right now I am just reading some fiction actually. So I'm just reading a book that actually my cousin wrote a book, which is really cool, and he's been writing it forever. It's called Voiders and Tellier by this guy. His name's Ellery McGinnis, Gillis McGinnis. And so anyway, so just
I like
a
that. I
little
like the
plug.
repetitiveness of the name.
Yeah, just a little plug for him. But so I've been reading that because I almost always read nonfiction, and I needed something different. And so that's what I'm doing. Every year around this time, I'll go back and read a little nonfiction. One of the books that I read every year is the Tao Te Ching. And so I'll probably read that right after I finish this, or kind of maybe at the same time.
Do you have you have a traditional reading schedule, kind of?
So I have a couple books that I like to read, that I read basically every year.
Really?
And well, in the past 3 years, so Tao Te Ching, and then Meditations by Marcus Aurelius.
I do get into meditations almost, but I don't do it purposefully. I find that I like gravitate towards it around this time of the year.
Yeah, well, it's because it's all about like beginnings, and you're thinking about things like gratitude, and you're thinking about like planning, and you're thinking about life at this time. And books like Meditations and the Tao Te Ching for me really coexist with fitness because it helps me build my goals and helps me kind of realize why I'm in fitness, why I'm doing it, and to keep me healthy. But actually, I do have one fitness book, like since this is like a fitness podcast, that's fitness specific,
Okay.
like, which is this one.
Refuse to Regain. Ooh.
Yeah, by
Barbara
this.
Berkeley.
Yeah. So
Okay.
one of my clients gave me this like 6 or 7 years ago,
Mm.
and I've been recommending it to like everybody since then because
Okay.
and I'll read I've probably read this like 3 times or so, just because this is like goes back to the basics of like everyone, like we don't have a losing weight problem in the United States. Like people lose weight all the time, but they put the weight back right back on, and that's a constant thing. And so this book is basically like gives you a bunch of different tools to help you kind of like manage your weight a little better.
I like that. I like
Yeah,
that. That's a very thoughtful subject because yeah, people do lose the weight. It's just like, do they keep it off?
right,
Basically.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I thought
everyone
about
knows. Oh, go ahead.
people always tell me to put like my weight loss in Instagram or in like my business profiles and stuff like that, you know. And I always want to put like 100 pound weight loss, like and kept it off, or like and so some kind of detail about keep because the 100 pound weight loss isn't as big of a deal to me as the fact that like kept keeping the weight off, you
Yeah,
know.
you're a new person.
Yeah, 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 and that's a big part of it, I think, for sure. I'm so glad I asked you this question. um okay, so before I go on to mine, why do you usually not read much nonfiction, so you prioritize it at this time of the year or something, or are you
Well,
usually just like it's more chill time so you get to read it?
Well, really, almost over the past 3 to 5 years, I prioritize nonfiction.
Yeah.
So, is that what you were saying? So, yes, I normally don't read fiction, and this is kind of this is like the holidays, the end of the holidays, getting into the new year. Like reading a fiction book for me is like I mean, I watch a lot of movies, and this is just like watching a movie, and this book has been awesome, and it's just exactly what I needed. I don't know, like if you like read so much nonfiction that you're always learning stuff, like I just needed a book that I could just kind of like not think as much.
Okay. Yeah.
What do you think? Like, do you read nonfiction
Fiction.
or fiction?
I know I keep messing. I keep switching them the wrong way. Um, the ones where things are made up or make believe.
Yes, a story, like a good story.
Yes. Yeah, I try to. I don't honestly, I don't really read much fiction. Um, Most of my fiction comes from like movies or in the video format, I would say. But I used to love reading fiction. I have a really hard time getting into fiction nowadays because I really want to like for me to get into a fiction book, a lot of things have to go right. It feels like right now. And I've said that for like decades at this point. But I'll do it every once in a while. Every once in a while, like once or twice a year, I would say. I'll
Mm,
get into something fiction related or like a fiction podcast. Most of the time it's audiobook.
right.
Trying to think. I'm trying to think of the most recent fiction, really, book or audiobook format. I'm having a hard time.
Managing the media you consume these days is hard, and
Mhm.
if you want to learn a lot of stuff, putting in the fiction is something that you have to really like you have to like make a point of like
Right.
after every three nonfictions
I
have
know it's weird. I'm gonna sound like a client. You ready?
okay.
I know it's beneficial, but I have such a hard time doing.
Well, are you watching a lot of Netflix and Disney and
Yeah,
stuff?
exactly. It is.
Because it's easier to get your fiction through that than it is to like
Mhm.
for like my mom can read a book in 2 hours. It takes me a couple days to read a book. So
Right.
like or longer, like depending on my time schedule. I might only get 30 minutes a day to read a book.
You know what scratches my fiction itch is video games.
Oh,
That
yeah.
scratches my fiction itch as
That's
well, I
interesting.
would say. I've been playing more video games when I want more fiction,
Yeah.
I would say, but like video games with some kind of story behind them. Like they gotta be more like RPG or like longer storyline type video games. They can't be like hack and slash or like quick little things.
Right. Like playing the whole story like through the campaign mode or whatever it is for that.
Right, right, right.
Yeah.
Not chess either. Chess is like a different thing for
Different type of game.
yeah, yeah.
Right.
But video
Exactly.
games that have like a storyline that you got to go through that storyline,
Yeah.
that'll kind of scratch the fiction itch.
Oh, exactly. That's very true. I like that. I didn't even
Yeah.
think because I play a lot of games, but nothing with a storyline. So I guess
Yeah.
that's why it doesn't
Really?
scratch. Yeah, yeah.
Ooh, that's
Well,
tricky. I used to love like Zelda. I still love Zelda.
So I used to play all those games,
Hmm.
like anything, well, my favorite games used to be Mario, Donkey Kong, Zelda. Like
Yeah,
those
yeah.
were my favorite games, which do have storylines. But
Mhm.
now I need something quick and not that I can just be done with, you know?
Yeah, yeah. It has aspects of different kind of fictional itches, you know,
Right,
that
right.
get scratched from by video games and books or audiobooks or
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. But there is a specific thing about like I really like if like I know I really enjoy having the time to sit down for like an hour or more, and I got like a nice beverage or a snack or something, and I can just page through a fiction book and like just really get into it and imagine it all and just nothing else is happening around me, distracting me. But like
How rare is that time though for a busy dad?
that's it's not gonna happen, you know? And it's kind of like what we were talking about in the green room. Uh, but but like be like it almost is worse that I had that at a point in a way,
Mhm.
because when it's hard for me to get close to that, it makes it harder to take those small steps are harder to take, you know,
So like at
because
one
you had that pinnacle in a way, you know.
Right, right. You got to like the closest point of perfection of of that skill that you were trying to get at, but now
Hmm.
that you're like a busy dad, you're just trying to scratch up to it, but
Yeah, so I basically gotta take like I gotta supplement it in different forms, a
that's
little bit from an audio book, a little bit from a podcast, a little bit from a video game, a little bit here and there. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that's a very good like kind of like what do you call it, analogy or whatever.
Mhm.
Um I like it. What book are you reading right now? Because you said you're not reading a fiction book, so are you reading some nonfiction?
So the thing that repeats itself a lot of times around this year, other like meditations was in and stoicism and like daily stoic and the obstacle is the way was in like November and whatnot.
Okay.
Um and then um and then around this time of the year, but I actually read this one multiple times a year, and it's because it's short and it's I have the audiobook.
Okay.
And I think he's the author has been doing some rounds on some podcasts too,
Oh.
because I think he's coming out with a new book, the Stephen Pressfield and the War of Art.
Oh,
Have
I'm
you
not
heard
sure.
that one?
No.
No, the
I'm gonna look
War
it
of
up.
Art. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
War of Art.
Oh my goodness. It's so good. It's so good. I've had this one. Gosh, I need to look. I wonder how long I've had this one. I had
Break
it
through
before
the
before it
blocks
was
and win
cool.
your
Before it
inner
was cool.
creative
Just so you know.
battles.
Yeah. You want? Are you looking at it?
Yeah. So, the War of Art. Break through the blocks and win your inner creative battles.
Yeah. And it's all about he uses a lot of analogies and metaphors to talk about this thing he calls resistance in the book.
Okay.
And he gives some anecdotes about his life and how he had to overcome resistance and where it shows up and the skills he learned and the thoughts he had and the things that help people do the thing they know they need to do even though they don't want to do it.
Right.
And
Right.
how and like for him he's a writer, and he actually wrote this book. It's kind of a funny story because he wrote this book a while ago, but it didn't really get that much traction for a long time. And he wrote a bunch of other books that actually did get a lot of traction. I think he wrote like The Legend of Bagger Vance and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So
But then
that was a golf one. So you said you read this before it was cool. So did you read it like back in college? Like when did you read it?
oh gosh. I started reading it. I mean, like I said, I revisit it pretty often, but I started reading it. I was looking on my Audible to see because I had it for a couple years before I had it on Audible.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
And
2002. I was still in
I
high school.
details. Let's see. Oh, it doesn't tell me when I first got it. It's got to be close to a decade, though. Close
That's
to a
all.
decade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love
But
hearing other people's inner thoughts. So that's what it sounds like. He like goes through his thoughts.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's so motivating. It's so motivating the way
Right.
he talks about it. And it's gosh, it's really short. It's not that 2 hours and 54 minutes, the whole book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah. Um, but yeah, it's all about overcoming resistance and doing the things that you know you want to do, and being a kind of like being true to yourself,
Yeah.
and then I really like where he talks about summoning the muse,
Okay.
because it's basically neurologically correct in my opinion. But he does it in a way that gives it a little bit more magic. I almost don't want to explain it and take the magic out of it by putting the science into it,
Sure. Sure.
if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. But you should just explain it.
Since most people aren't going to actually listen to the book, and by the time you do, maybe you'll the magic will still be there. But
Yeah.
like, he talks about the ritual of summoning the muse. And the muse is this thing that he like wholeheartedly believes in. I've heard him talk about it in interviews that he like wholeheartedly believes in.
Yeah.
And in a way, you have to have like a belief to get the most out of this, I would say.
Hmm.
But what he basically does is he does a few different. He sets up his environment in a specific way. Nothing too crazy,
Right.
but at his work desk where he usually does his writing, um, he does it in a specific order, and then he um, says this invocation of the muse from, I think, Homer's Odyssey,
Okay.
um, and then gets to work.
So he's
Basically,
got the cue
yeah,
to
he's got a whole bunch of cues.
yeah.
Basically, he's got a whole bunch of cues, and they're time related, and they're sequential, and they're just basically telling the brain to go from wherever the fuck it is before this
Yeah.
and make its way. Here's your warning. Okay, next, turn on that part, turn off that part, make its way. Okay, time to go.
Right.
And you do that enough times, and that's what happens. Like,
Right. Right. It's like
it's like when you're driving and say like you're going to go do a task that you don't normally do, and a left turn is going to work like you normally do, and a right turn is to go do that task, and you
yeah.
make that left turn without even thinking about it.
Right. Right.
And then you're like, shit, I got to turn around and go back.
I've seen this call in another book, Think and Grow Rich, it's called auto suggestion. So the same idea is that like basically essentially you're just carving the path in your brain over and over, and that's literally creating this new habit or whatever you want to create. You're
Whatever.
creating it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you take the magic out of it, it doesn't work as well.
True,
Because
true.
you try, because then people, the more rebellious types will have a harder time, I would say.
Right, right. So
And, and,
a
and
book
to
like
that I say, I don't think you can do it.
unless you read the book. No.
No, I don't think they can do it anyhow. I don't think they can do it anyhow. Prove me wrong.
So okay, so a book like that though, now that book was that more beneficial than if someone like just finds a book that says beginner fitness? Like, do you think that's a better book for somebody to read than like a fitness, like if they're starting out in fitness, read
Uh,
that or read Fitness 101?
um,
It's like you almost have to
if
read
they're
both.
equally motivated to read each,
Yeah, right? Because you have to learn a little bit about fitness, but a little bit about
no
yourself.
matter what, they're gonna read it. They're not like gonna have a, because I think like the barrier to entry with that one is a little bit lower than Fitness 101,
Sure, sure. Just
for
like
example.
2 hour audiobook. Perfect.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but it's more motivational than tactical, I would say.
Okay.
Why I have to listen to it multiple times per year.
Right, right.
Um, so I would go with Fitness 101
Okay. Okay.
if I'm guaranteed they're going to read either. But if you're having a hard time getting going at all, read that and then read Fitness 101.
So if you're like, so a lot of people take six, I think the NASM training that I got, which is like the National Academy of Sports Medicine or whatever, for CPT training, said that it takes about 6 months for people to make a decision. And maybe you know this a little bit
Right.
better.
So that's why it might be better to read War of Art first and then Fitness 101.
So like
But if
if
you're
you're
telling me,
just,
I guarantee you I will finish and read this and finish it in this amount of time, then I'd say read Fitness 101.
boom, I like it. That's what I'm saying. Because most people need some time to think about it, right?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I like it. So those are good books. Do we have any other, like, what other kind of resources can people find? Like, I mean, there's
I'm
thousands
gonna
of
share
books.
my screen for a moment,
Ooh,
actually,
okay.
because this is actually a book that I've been sharing with a lot of people lately. And I've shared it in the past too,
Okay.
called Simple Steps to Foot Pain Relief by Katie Bowman. And I really like it because it actually gives pictures and examples and reasoning in each chapter about how to improve people's foot issues like hammer toes, bunions, plantar fasciitis,
Yeah.
poor posture. And she's got a lot of really good reviews and everything like that. And I feel like I'm sponsored by her, but I'm not. But I really, I've given this book, I've given this book to a couple of people, and I've recommended this book to a couple of people, and everybody who's actually used the book has felt amazing afterwards and has gone on to tell more people about it.
That's awesome.
So yeah,
And you know a
that's a
lot
really good
about
one.
foot stuff,
And foot pain is like one of those unspoken things that I think people don't really talk about that much.
right?
Hope it goes away. I
Sure,
don't know.
sure.
But it really impedes people's strength training.
Absolutely. We're gonna have a foot episode, by the way, right? Like
Yeah, that's right.
we've been talking about doing a foot episode.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm super interested. And I have like a couple little things about feet, but I don't want to. We won't get too into it right now. But I would love to get your opinion because I know you've done a lot of work on your feet, and I've done pretty minimal work. And yeah, see, look at that. You got your own shoe and
Toe
everything.
shoes at the ready.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect.
I'm excited
All right.
about that. But yeah,
Cool.
a little preview. I would say that's a good one.
Yeah. So some other resources. So you got the foot thing. We went through a couple books. Well, and then the obvious one is just everything online, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now when people are looking online, what kind of resources should they look for? Like for me, I would say like so social media, right? And then you would turn to say, let's just say Instagram. Now, are those good resources? Like on a whole, you would say probably not, right? Because a lot of those fitness accounts are just people in bikinis trying to look good, and that's what sells, right?
The ones that are actually, yeah, the categorically speaking, I mean, you can just be any category you want on Instagram as a business account. Yeah, and the fitness category, if I had to break it down, it'd probably be like the rest of the internet where most of it is mostly, well, on Instagram, it's basically softcore porn, I would say.
Right, right. So you think
The
it's
fitness
80
category
20?
is very relative to the rest of the internet, I would say, on Instagram.
Perfect. So we'll just say the 80-20 rule. There's probably 80% of Instagram
Yes.
be bad information
Yeah.
about fitness, and 20% is going to be good information.
Yeah, yeah.
So
20% of the people are carrying the load for the rest of the fitness population in terms of what's good. I would say the 80% of it is most likely not going to be very helpful. Yeah, if we Pareto's principle is probably a good distribution. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So we'll name a couple, right? You got your favorite, Dan, well, one of your favorites, Dan John, right?
Mm-hmm,
Right.
mm-hmm.
So he's good for the aging lifter. Like I'd say he would be a good follow for that.
I think he's good for beginners too, I would say.
Beginners,
Um,
because it's very minimalist. A lot of his stuff is pretty minimalistic, which
mhm,
I love.
mhm,
And I do think, yeah, great for beginners.
mhm. Like I really like his university, Dan John University thing. Have you seen that?
I haven't. No,
The workout generator.
no, no.
Dan John on the low is at the forefront of AI created workouts.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
he's got a workout generator on his website,
Yeah.
and it's all it's all exercises based on equipment people have,
Right.
and you put the timeline, you put all the data in, you
Right.
know, and then it spits out a workout for you that Dan John would give you.
Right. Right.
Because Dan John he doesn't go outside of his box very much.
Right.
So his box it's not huge. I'm not saying it's small, but it's not huge, So like you can put the exercise selection and type of exercises that he likes people to do and the progressions for him. Reese could do that too. Our previous guest, by the way. Reese
Oh,
could
yeah.
do that too. I'm surprised. I really want Reese to like make a explosive performance workout generator.
Workout generator. That would be fun. Maybe one of us should figure out how to do it. I bet you I could figure out how to do that.
I bet you could. Yeah.
Yeah. That'd be fun.
An idea for another time. But yeah, Dan John's a big one.
Okay. I like Dr. John Rusin.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
I like him a lot. He has very functional training. He, loves unilateral training, but also bilateral training. Very descriptive videos of, where you should brace, how you should feel at the time, with lots of visuals and everything. I really like that account.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Trying to think of accounts versus actual people, like because some people I like, but their accounts are they're not very active on their account.
True.
Like the author of that foot pain book, she's not very active
Right.
on her account that much.
Right. Which is tough for a lot of, a lot of our audience will probably go to social media or the internet before they're going to buy a book.
Right. Right. And a lot of the authors are really not that active on social media.
Right.
Because they've made their life, they made their lifestyle, they made their money.
Basically. Right. Muscle in Motion, is that the one that has all of that shows like the inside of your muscles and everything?
Oh, I've seen that one. I actually don't follow them, but I do like them. Yeah.
Muscle in Motion, they have an awesome account on Instagram, and they have a whole app you can buy and stuff like that. It's really good. It's really good for a trainer too to have, because it shows all the muscle groups that are working and all the different exercises. It's awesome.
Yeah. I like that. I like that a lot.
And good for the beginner who wants to know what they're doing. Like, I'm doing this movement because it's working my hamstrings and glutes.
Right. I like being able to see everything a lot. Like I have a lot of anatomy charts around just to be able to like visualize it. And for a beginner, that helps a ton.
Absolutely.
Because they're always asking, I would say. And if they're not asking, they're thinking about asking. I feel like what muscle is this working?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are interested in that, and then but you'll also get the people that are just like, tell me what to do.
I know.
Which is fine. I like both.
Yeah, yes. They both have their strengths and weaknesses,
like all of us.
Yes. Andy Bryant, podiatrist, I've been following him a good bit, and he talks a lot about foot health. My brain's on foot health because of that last book.
Yeah. Do you have a couple clients right now where you're really working on some foot stuff?
Yeah.
There's right?
What's that?
I mean, that's a big thing to work on for a lot of people, which we'll get into in that one episode. But I mean, if you're in that right now with like that's what I used to love when I had a ton of clients, is that I would always be into something. I'd be like, oh, well, why is this dude's scapula doing this? And like, I would just go
that's the theme of the last quarter.
Okay. Say.
Yeah.
So it's on your mind. See, that's awesome.
Yeah. So I'm following a whole bunch of them.
Okay.
A bunch of foot health stuff. I'm getting I got new shoes coming in. I'm doing a foot health experiment soon.
Okay. Cool.
Have you heard of Ultras?
Nope.
No. So they're super wide toe box, just like running shoe brand. I would say trail running shoe brand. They started off trail running shoes.
Yeah.
And they have really good drainage. So a lot of like kayakers and water sports people like them a lot, or people who are going through trails that might have some water.
Yeah.
And because of that wide toe box, it also makes it easier for the feet to breathe and the good drainage, and you don't have blisters as much. And but
Ooh,
it's also
I
just
like
better for your feet, period. You
sure,
know,
sure.
they
Yeah,
look a little
absolutely.
anything with a wide toe box, because we're so used to a narrow toe box, looks clunky
Yeah.
nowadays, because everybody's like, oh, weird, your toes
Yeah,
are
like
laid out
streamline
normally.
me.
Yeah. So I get those coming in, but the difference is those ones actually have a little bit more padding, and they don't flex as much as like a Vibram would, for
So
example.
it might be better for like, I mean, I know there's always this fight in training from like having a crutch to when do you need to use a crutch,
Exactly.
right? And
Exactly.
and a lot of people a lot of people probably don't need that shoe that you just showed us before they're, and maybe you have different opinion, but like
I wouldn't start them all day every day with super minimal footwear.
right, right. And then you
Yeah.
train to a point where you can use a ton of like all super minimal, but
Right.
then maybe you get old and your feet are just getting worn down and you might need to add a little padding in there just
Or your
to maintain.
terrain, if your terrain changes to a
Yep.
terrain you're not used to, or your load increases to a load you're not used to,
Okay.
or if you're beat up and you need to kind of take it easy and recover a little bit. But there's a certain point, I think, where modern shoes just beat you up.
Yeah.
They're not helping you with recovery at all.
Right, right. You
And
have
a
to
lot of
work
that has to
through it.
do with the toe splay, basically.
Oh man, I can't wait for this conversation. All right.
Yeah.
We'll do this conversation soon.
Find out next time.
uh
Okay, but the last thing we wanted to go over, you want to go over that? And then we'll close it up with that to help out with the newbies in the gym, if people are going to the gym in fitness season and trying to figure things out. What's some we'll do a little humorous ending with the gym etiquette,
okay.
right?
Let's do it.
So I was thinking, and we can talk about what's good gym etiquette to do, but I want to talk about it in a way that like in funny instances or examples of people having bad gym etiquette, basically.
Okay.
And this isn't meant in any way to scare people away from gyms. Like, this doesn't happen often, but when you're working as a trainer in gyms, you see it often. Say
Okay.
it that way.
Yeah.
After spending 40 some odd hours, more actually, because a lot of times you're just sitting on the floor
True.
waiting.
True. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Should I do an example?
Yeah. Give me an example of a what not to. This is gym etiquette, what not to do, and then we'll give them what to do.
Okay. All right. So I just got off the treadmill. Here, I'll paint the picture. I
Okay.
just got off, I'm a naturally pretty sweaty guy. I just got off the treadmill and then I jump over to the bench press machine. It's open finally. So
Finally.
I get on the bench press and I knock out 3 sets pretty quick. And I was doing, some mobility in between. And I get up and I walk away and I leave a lake of sweat on my bench as well as on the
On
floor.
Monday, which is, everybody knows, is International Bench Day.
International Bench Day at 7:30 a.m.
Just
Yes.
start the day off musty.
Yep. And then I just roll out.
Literally on your sweat.
And they could follow me through the
A
gym
little
with
trail.
my sweat trails.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So that would be my picture of gym etiquette that is not good. Why is that not good, Mike?
Because the sweating is fine. Sweating is probably a good thing. I would recommend you keeping water with you for somebody who sweats a good amount.
I
I
was
would
not
say.
lying, by the way. I am this guy.
Oh, I'm that dude too. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
So
Yeah.
if you sweat a lot, like don't worry about what we're saying because I sweat a lot.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Stay hydrated though, basically.
Definitely.
Because that means you're losing a lot of water. Maybe some electrolytes might be a good idea. But at gym etiquette wise, I would say it's good if you're a sweater to kind of keep a towel nearby. And a lot of gyms will give you a towel, or they'll have towels near the machines. If you're not lucky enough to be at a gym like that, it's good to have like a little hand towel in your gym bag to bring with you
Yep.
and just wipe down that area. Pretty much all gyms have some kind of wipe down area where you can get like paper towels and a little spray bottle or something like that.
Yep.
So you can grab that and bring it with you.
I mean, like I like to grab like yeah, either grab the bottle or if they just have the already wet wipes,
Right.
like bring those with
Pull
me.
those wet wipes out of the thing. So look for that cleaning station
Yeah,
basically before you go to the area that you're going to. Because
before.
if you say you're going to do it afterwards, you're not going to do it.
Right.
You're just going to dip out, especially at the bench press, because that's like prime real estate, especially on a Monday, like I said.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So the sweaty thing is a huge thing. Also, you'll see it at the gym too. Now,
Mhm.
how do you deal with it if you see it at the gym as a noob?
What do you, oh, see the sweat at the gym?
Yeah, like what if you roll up and your bench is sweaty?
Goggles are useful. So that way when they spin,
Swimming
um,
trunks.
keeping out of like a certain radius, I would say. But overall, it's natural. It's nothing crazy about it. People sweat. Give them a high five if you want.
What's going to happen at the
You can
gym?
ask.
Yes.
Yeah, it's gonna. I mean, hopefully, in a lot of gyms, you're gonna see people sweat, which is why they have all those cleaning things around. Basically, I
Exactly.
don't think I've been in a gym in a while that hasn't had cleaning stuff around and like towel service and stuff like that.
It's high priority now after COVID.
Yeah, especially nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, what's another one?
What's another one? This one's for the ladies. I would say if somebody is okay, there's a long row of treadmills. Okay, it's pretty empty in the gym that day, and I'm running on the treadmill. I'm in the zone, and all of a sudden, somebody comes up and takes the treadmill right next to me. They're
Oh.
all exactly the same model. And then while I'm in the zone, they start talking to me. And I can't hear them because I got my headphones on.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
You have to slow down.
So I got to slow down and I got to put my hands on the treadmill because it's good to put your hands before you actually take your feet off. Put your hands on the treadmill, step off on both sides. And then I pursue to talk to them for a moment nicely and get back to my workout. But it's all the same model of treadmill, all the way down.
Right, right.
The only reason I could think that could be justified, maybe, is that like that person always goes to that treadmill because they've like figured out like that's the treadmill that they do best on because the motor is actually working or something weird or like there's a good view out the window or something like that.
Yeah.
You know,
Right, but how do you have that conversation?
but most of the time,
Is that your treadmill, dude? No.
you don't see it unless there's like a single female all by herself and some douchebag like going to the treadmill right next to her.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that's never happened to me, the sweaty guy in the gym. Like they usually people are like
Yeah,
three
people
treadmills
keep
away.
a radius, like I said. Yeah, radius is good because like when you spin, sometimes you get a little bit out there. But yeah.
But I could see how that could be an issue and is an issue because I've worked at gyms and have heard that story before. So that literally is an issue.
And it brings up it's the part of the theme that made me think of it is that like generally speaking, like when people set up their workout area, it's good to give them like a little bit of a perimeter, basically.
Yeah.
Pretty much wherever anybody is in the gym. Like um a lot of stuff comes down to like space etiquette. And I think I wonder if this is a little bit more of a US thing, like because I know people in the US have a bigger bubbles,
Right. Right.
like space wise, versus in other countries the bubbles aren't as big. Like it's like when you talk to people from other countries, you'll talk closer to their face.
Right.
Um, depending on the country, my Latin American clients, when I'm talking to them, I'm like, we're close. But there's a general like space etiquette, I would say.
I like this.
So
Yeah.
like if someone sets up a mat on the floor, as long as people aren't impeding a walkway,
Mm-hmm.
usually it's good to give them a little bit of space, enough so like if someone was laying down and they put their arms and legs out and then just did a circle, that's probably about a good amount of space.
Right.
That way they're not going to reach out in any way and hit anybody or touch anybody with the weights. And it's good safety wise too,
I
I
think
would say.
for you or other people, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, I like the space one.
Mm.
Which can be super tough though during a busy time at the
Right.
here's a good question when it comes to space. Roll off that one. Where
Mm-hmm.
do you put your mat?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you probably don't have a mat if you're a noob, but
Mm-hmm.
you could definitely bring a mat. Or there's mats at gyms.
Mm-hmm.
Now you go to the mat station. Now where do
Mm-hmm.
you set your mat up?
Right. Right. So some gyms kind of have like dedicated mat areas, I would say. Some gyms let you set up your mat in group fitness rooms that aren't being used,
Right.
like when there's no classes going. I really like doing that. That's like my pro tip, I would say. Another good area is usually somewhere around the free weights or
Yeah.
like a sports performance area or something like that is a good place where you see.
Okay. So now let's do the free weights. So that probably is a fairly common
Mhm,
place. And
mhm,
then so you would have to share that space with the benches.
mhm,
So safety wise, like make sure, and that comes back to the perimeter space that we were talking about before. Like
mhm.
make sure your mats are like a fair amount of space away from benches because you don't want anybody to drop a weight on you. Make sure that your mats are not between the benches and the free weights,
Yep.
so that there's a space for people to be able to go up to the weights. I think that's another important one.
Mhm.
And those would probably be my two main ones with that area.
Yeah.
And same with, you get a lot of good space on turf areas and that you can usually use for mats, but just make sure that you're not in a lane where people are doing sprints or any other kind of sled movements while you're there.
Yeah. The main thing is being in like walking lanes or moving lanes. So paying attention to that. And that's a little bit hard when you first get to a gym, like knowing what the traffic looks like, at the
Yeah.
gym and the time schedules and whatnot. So a lot of times you'll set up a spot and then you might end up having to move that spot at some point. Like I've set up spots many times and then I had ended up having to move it because like halfway through that time a class is gonna I see people getting ready for a class or whatever,
Yeah.
you just got to be ready for that. Have a good backup spot too.
Yeah. And who thinks about that besides like a trainer? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So what happens? Well, I don't even want to get into that right now. So
Oh, but this is a good one. So
okay.
I'm working on my hour and a half long bodybuilding program,
Okay. Okay.
and I got to do like 6 sets on this machine, basically.
Yeah.
And while I'm doing those 6 sets, I'm gonna sit here, even though I'm supposed to take a 2-minute rest between each set. I'm gonna
Right.
sit here right at this machine and like fiddle on my phone, you know. And sometimes it's more than 2 minutes, even though max is supposed to be like a 2-minute rest according to my bodybuilding program,
Yeah. Of course.
basically.
Yeah.
And then when people come up and ask if they can get in the next set, I say I'm almost done, but I really have like 4 more sets to go.
Okay.
Yeah. What am I doing wrong here?
Okay. Well, I mean, a couple of things are normal. Like you might have some time limits in between your sets that are 2 to 5 minutes, like depending on your programming, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can't sit on the equipment. You should not sit on the equipment
Mm-hmm.
in between sets.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, people can come up to you
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and they will want to use that, right? They'll ask that question.
They'll be like, "Hey, are you almost done?" Or "How many sets left do you have?"
Now
Right?
this is interesting. We've kind of touched on this conversation before
Uh-huh.
on things like on anything except a barbell. All right, I would
Mm-hmm.
say, and
Mm-hmm.
that's might be a little overview, but I'm just kind of thinking about it right now. On
Mm-hmm.
anything besides a barbell, it's definitely okay to work in sets. And I'm
Explain
thinking,
work in sets, because sometimes I don't think people understand what that means.
all
Just
right, so I just finished my first set and I'm sitting there on my phone. Well, I
you
should
do 10
actually,
reps. Your first
I,
set with 10 reps,
I've finished my first set with 10 reps,
right?
and person number two needs to work. So I get up, I wipe off my seat and the handles,
Wipe
and
off
then
my seat.
the
Sweat.
the the other person will sit down and do their set. They'll change the weight to whatever weight they need. They might change the seat too.
Right?
Uh,
They'll do whatever reps they need to do. Maybe they do like 12 reps with a different weight or something.
and they do that. Now it's now your responsibility as the person who got back on. I would say if you are working in, to move everything back to how it was. Now that's questionable, right? But I
Oh,
think
to unrack. I think if you're working, if you are the one who initiated the question of working in to what
it's
they're doing, you put it back to where they were when you're done.
yes,
Because you got there second. You weren't there first.
yes. So you need to respect their machine at the time.
Right. Because
And then
they're being nice enough to let you work in,
yes.
basically.
Exactly. Now this is where we probably might have a debate, or I
Well,
know
barbells are different because it's like if you gotta like then it's if it's barbells it gets a little more complicated. It's like oh like if they're in the same strength level as you, you know, or
it,
weight loaded stuff. It's either if they're in the same strength level as you, and then you got to kind of make a game time decision a little bit
it
about
is.
that.
If you're on a squat rack and you're doing 60-second, if you're doing 60-second rest periods between your sets,
Yeah,
and let's say it's you're doing a deadlift, so everything's on the floor, and you have three plates on each side,
right.
and then
And
the
that person
other
wants to do like one plate on each side.
one plate plus a 10 plus a 5 plus a 2.5. So they're taking they're taking
Yeah,
off. You're taking off these three
they
plates.
shouldn't even be asking to work in. I would say at that point.
Dude, it's rough, man.
Yeah.
As a trainer, I've gotten in arguments with people at a gym because of this.
Yeah, I think you have to be at like a machine. You can just change the clip. You
Yeah,
know, machines you can just change the clip. But in order to work in with someone, I think etiquette wise, you need to be doing a similar amount of weight for a similar amount of rest time as that person.
yeah,
So it's good to like, oh hey, somebody's on that machine on that rack right now, on that squat rack, or somebody's on that deadlift platform, or somebody's using those dumbbells. You
yeah,
know, I'm gonna watch them for this next set. If I really want to get in on it, instead of just going and doing something else, I'm gonna
right.
watch them for this next set and see what they're doing real quick. And if that's similar to what I'm going to be doing, then I'll ask them if I can work in.
Yeah. I think that's fair. Because just think though, like because you can be at a squat rack for 10 minutes at a
It's a
time.
great. I met a lot of friends working in sets with people, you know, and
You
then you get a spot partner too if you need a spot partner.
Yep, yep. So I mean, you can make it work. Have a conversation like this. I just think that there's not a black and white answer to the squat rack, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And where some people think there is a black and white answer. And so I think you just need to have a conversation and be honest with them.
This is why I stayed around the free weights a lot too, honestly. Like
Yeah,
not the only reason and not the main reason, but like a reinforcing reason to stay around as a trainer a lot of times.
yeah.
Unless somebody specifically had like a deadlift, a squat, or a bench goal, you know?
So you've been in the gym for 20 years. I've been in the gym for 10 years, and we're having this conversation. How do you think somebody on their second day at the gym is going to feel about going up to a squat rack,
Right. Right.
Like so what's the simplest thing for us to be able to tell somebody who's going up to a squat rack?
Going up to a squat rack if they choose to do so.
If they choose to do so, which is questionable, right?
As a newbie trying to do a barbell squat,
I would say we would just if it's open, go. If there's other people on it, let them do their thing, right? That should kind of be
barbells are intermediate to an advanced tool,
yeah.
I would say.
So
So it can be dangerous if you don't know what you're doing with the barbell.
so stay away from the barbell area if you're new to the gym.
Yeah, if you haven't had at least a little bit of experience with the barbell in the past, and and like understand what barbell form looks like. And yeah, like if you instead, you can't, like, in the gym, a lot of times new people will just walk up to something and try it,
Yeah.
which is why a lot of gyms have machines, because that's the easiest thing to do that with, liability wise, not have see an injury happen.
Yeah.
I would not suggest, if you've never seen a barbell before and you've never looked at like barbell form or anything like that, to go up to do barbell work. I would not
That's
suggest.
it's
I would deter them against it, actually.
it's like almost gyms need like a
Barbells by themselves are 45 pounds typically.
yeah. Oh, I know. Yeah. I mean that's heavy for a lot of
So,
people.
like, for any new person listening, they're 45 pounds, just the barbell itself. That's not any weight to come from. And they're wobbly at 45 pounds because they're a long 45 pounds.
Yeah.
Basically.
I like
You
it.
gotta have some experience or have someone who knows what they're doing around barbells with you, I would say.
All right. Is there any other gym etiquette for noobs? For the people new to the gym?
I mean, there's silly little things I can think of probably, but that's probably good for now.
Those are the big things, right?
Yeah.
Like give people confidence, just get on the weights and get your workout in. Yeah. Okay. All right, cool. Is that a wrap?
That's a wrap.
All right. All right, Mike. We'll talk to you later, man.
Peace out. Thanks for listening, everyone.
And that was the episode. Thanks for listening to Books and Resources for Anybody New to Fitness.
I know. I love how it's a contradiction. Yes. It's
right. We are super proficient in non-exercise activity. So basically, we're awesome at doing nothing.
Yes. Amazing.